$3 water, $54 bill, and that was their final mistake. They laughed when I ordered nothing but sparkling water, teased me like always, how disciplined, how chic, how mysterious I was for never touching the menu. Then came the bill, $218. "Let's split it," one chirped, waving the receipt. That made my share $54 for a $3 drink. My stomach twisted, but I smiled. That moment, when their laughter turned to pressure, was the moment something in me snapped. Not in rage, in clarity. I wasn't their friend, I was their ATM. But not anymore. They thought they humiliated me. Instead, they triggered the most powerful transformation of my life. I never meant to become invisible, but somewhere between smiling through gourmet dinners I couldn't afford and pretending that drinking water was a dietary choice, I disappeared into the background of my own life. My name is Rachel Monroe. I'm 39. I work as an administrative assistant for a mid-sized law firm in Seattle. I live alone in a one-bedroom apartment that's clean, small, and mine. After rent, utilities, and my student loan payment, there's usually just enough left for groceries, bus fare, and a Netflix subscription I keep forgetting to cancel. I don't complain. I've survived worse. The worst, actually, was 3 years ago. A divorce that drained my savings, my self-esteem, and any illusion that love always meant loyalty. That was the last time I allowed someone to take from me without asking, or so I thought. Then came Tina, Bianca, and Lena. I met them at work. They were stylish, smart, loud, in a way that made people look not in annoyance, but admiration. They had the kind of casual elegance I once imagined I'd grow into. Instead, I shrank next to them. But they invited me in anyway. Happy hours, brunches, spontaneous midweek dinners at rooftop bistros. Girls' night, they called it, like it was some sacred rite of friendship. I was flattered, grateful even. But early on, I noticed something. They ordered everything. Wine flights, hand-cut truffle fries, seared scallops on beds of something I couldn't pronounce. I'd sit quietly scanning the menu for the cheapest side dish before closing it all together. "Not really hungry tonight," I'd say with a smile, "still full from lunch." Or trying that intermittent fasting trend. It became a joke to them. "Rachel and her eternal fasts," Tina once laughed, sipping a $19 lavender martini. Every time, the same ending. The bill would come, someone would skim it, and someone else would chirp, "Let's just split it evenly, yeah?" Heads would nod, cards would slide across the table, my throat would tighten, but I'd nod too, and pay. At first, I rationalised it. They invited me in. Maybe this was the cost of belonging, maybe someday when I made more money, I'd remember these nights fondly, but someday never came. And every Friday I watched my bank account bleed so they could toast their promotions, their travel stories, their new relationships, their lives bursting with abundance. They knew my salary, knew I lived alone, carried debt, rarely travelled. They called me strong for staying afloat. But strength, I learned, is quiet. It doesn't always look like holding up the weight of others' indulgences. They never offered to cover me, never suggested I pay less. They just smiled and clinked glasses and assumed I'd play along. And I did, for months. Until the night at the Olive and the Anchor, when a single sparkling water cost me $3 and gave me back my voice. The Olive and the Anchor was the kind of place that made you feel underdressed, even when you wore your best. Edison bulbs glowed like golden orbs above reclaimed wood tables. Waiters moved like shadows, silent, efficient, invisible unless summoned. The menu was printed in minimalist font, no dollar signs, just ingredients arranged like poetry. Truffle, bone marrow, seafoam. We were celebrating Bianca's recent bonus. She closed a high-profile case, and her boss gifted her a designer handbag. She wore it proudly, swinging it from her chair like a badge of superiority. I had eaten a microwaved burrito at my desk an hour earlier. As we sat down, they immediately began ordering. Tina called for the imported wine. Bianca wanted the Wagyu sliders just to start. Lena ordered oysters, because why not? I flipped through the menu, eyes darting past the prices. My stomach coiled. The cheapest item was a side salad for $17. Sparkling water was $3.50. I took a deep breath, closed the menu, and leaned back. "I think I'll just have water tonight," I said lightly. "Not super hungry." Cue the laughter. "Rachel, you and these diet phases," Lena teased. "You're gonna vanish." "I swear, you survive on air and ambition," Bianca added. Tina raised a brow. "Or maybe it's another one of her cleanse weeks." They laughed, like it was our inside joke, like my silence was a choice we all agreed on. They didn't see the way my fingers clutched the edge of the table, or how my cheeks burned, not with shame, but with the boiling pressure of years of quiet. The waiter came. They rattled off their orders with the ease of practiced luxury. I asked for sparkling water with lime. He raised an eyebrow. I nodded. "That's all." More laughter. I sat through that dinner like a ghost, smiling, nodding, pretending to listen while my thoughts raced. The bill would be over $200 again. I'd pay $50 for water and the privilege of being tolerated. Then Bianca leaned in, holding her wine glass like a trophy. "You know what I admire about you, Rachel," she said, voice dripping with feigned sincerity. "You never need anything. You're just content. It's kind of zen." Zen, as if not affording food was a spiritual lifestyle. The desserts came. They moaned over molten chocolate and artisanal gelato, nudging me. "Try a bite, Rachel. One bite won't kill your cleanse." I smiled and declined again. And then, as predicted, the check arrived. Tina reached for it. Her manicured nails skimmed the leather folder. $210, she announced. "So that's $54.50 each." Three faces turned toward me in synchronized expectation. And for the first time, I didn't smile. I didn't pretend. I simply said, "No." The word left my mouth before I had time to second-guess it. No. It was quiet, firm, not loud, but it sliced through the room like a dropped wine glass. The clink of silverware at surrounding tables didn't stop, but I felt everything freeze around our little corner of curated elegance. Lena blinked. "No? What?" I looked straight at her. "No, I'm not splitting the bill. I only had water." Silence. Confused, offended silence. Tina was the first to react. She set down her spoon slowly, like she was staging a drama. "Rachel, we always split. It's just easier." "Easier for who?" I asked, heart pounding but voice steady. "Because for me it's expensive, unfair." Bianca leaned forward, her smile tight. "Come on, Rachel, it's not a big deal. We've been doing this for months." "Yes," I said, "and for months I've paid for wine I didn't drink, meals I didn't eat, desserts I couldn't afford. You knew that. You joked about my cleanses while I quietly footed part of your bill." Their expressions changed in subtle waves, disbelief, then annoyance, and finally something colder, dismissal. "Rachel," Lena said, her voice suddenly patronizing. "You enjoyed the night, didn't you? The company, the ambience. That's part of the experience. You can't just pay 54s for a $3 drink," I cut in, "because I sat here and laughed at jokes I didn't feel? No, not anymore." Bianca scoffed. "So what now? You want us to cover your part too?" "My part is $3.50, I said calmly, reaching into my purse and pulling out exact change with a tip. "That's what I'm paying." Tina's jaw clenched. "You're making a scene." "No," I said, rising to my feet. "I'm finally refusing to play one." I left the restaurant on shaking legs, the click of my heels on tile echoing louder than my heartbeat. But I didn't stop. I didn't turn around. For the first time in months, maybe years, I walked away from something that didn't feel right, didn't serve me, didn't value me. Outside, the air was cool and sharp. I exhaled so deeply it felt like releasing a lifetime of swallowed pride. They thought I left in shame, but I left in power. The walk home was a blur of city lights and pulsing thoughts. I replayed every second of that dinner, every condescending smile, every veiled jab disguised as a joke. The audacity of it all, the entitlement, the expectation, the way they twisted generosity into obligation. But even as adrenaline surged through me, doubt crept in like a shadow. Had I overreacted? Would they talk about me? Would they make me the villain? I knew the answer before I turned the key to my apartment door. By the time I sat down on my couch, phone buzzing non-stop in my purse, the damage was already underway. Tina had texted first. Tina: "Wow, that was super immature, Rachel. Could have talked it out." Then Bianca: "Bianca, you embarrassed us. Seriously, over a few bucks. Pathetic." And finally, Lena: "Lena, not cool. Don't expect to be invited again." I stared at the screen, a slow breath filling my lungs. They were rewriting the story in real time. No mention of the months I quietly overpaid, no acknowledgement of my restraint. Just outrage. Because I had disrupted their pattern, because I had finally said the word they never expected to hear, no. The next morning at work, the whispers started. I walked into the break room and felt it instantly, the silence, the half-finished conversations, the stiff nods. They'd gotten to people, told their version first, that I'd stormed out, that I made a scene over a shared bill, that I'd been riding along on their generosity all along. By noon, I felt the sting of isolation. Emails went unanswered longer than usual. Lunch plans happened without me. I was being edged out. It hurt more than I thought it would. But then Carla from HR approached me at the copier. "Rachel," she said, lowering her voice, "I heard what happened last night. You okay?" I blinked. "I guess so. Depends on what you heard." She tilted her head. "That you refused to pay your share at dinner." I almost laughed. "That's one version. Want to hear mine?" She nodded, and for the first time I told the truth. All of it. The water, the mockery, the months of quiet compliance, and the final straw. When I finished, she looked stunned. "Wow," she said. "That's really messed up. Yeah, you did the right thing." I didn't know if that was true yet, but it felt like the first brick in a new foundation, one built not on fake friendships or financial guilt, but on truth. By Thursday, the office was a battlefield fought in smiles and silence. My former friends, now self-appointed victims, were executing their campaign with precision. Sarah's voice rang a little louder in the break room. Bianca lingered in hallways, dropping hints with calculated nonchalance. Lena became the queen of quiet side eyes during meetings. It wasn't just gossip, it was strategy, but I wasn't playing defense anymore. That afternoon, as I sat alone reviewing client notes, my phone buzzed with a message I didn't expect. Brenda, finance team. "Hey, Rachel. Some of us are going for a quick happy hour at Rusty Anchor tomorrow. Nothing fancy. You're welcome to join, Toll." I reread it 3 times before replying. Me. "Thanks, Brenda. I'd love to." It was the most honest invitation I'd gotten in months. No manipulation, no hidden expectations, just people wanting to hang out. And the Rusty Anchor wasn't Olive and Anchor. No curated menus, no ambient jazz. Just a neighbourhood bar with sticky tables and cheap beer. My kind of place. Friday arrived, and for the first time all week, I felt something like hope. Brenda waved when I walked in. Marcus from IT was there, telling a story with hand gestures that rivaled stage performers, Anna from accounting, sipping ginger ale, and John, new, quiet, thoughtful, nodding at me from across the table. "Rachel," Brenda smiled, "glad you made it." And I was. Because in that cramped booth with scratched-up menus and laughter that didn't sting, I remembered what friendship was supposed to feel like. Easy, honest, affordable, both emotionally and financially. When the check came, Marcus grabbed it. "First round's on me," he said. "No arguments." Everyone smiled. I didn't feel guilty. I didn't feel trapped. I felt included. And then Brenda leaned over. "Listen, I hope it's not weird to bring this up, but I heard what happened last week, and honestly, you were right. Those girls, they've pulled that on others too." Anna nodded. Happened to me once. Never again, Marcus chuckled. They invited me once. I checked the Yelp menu and ghosted them. Even John added, they tried to make me pay $40 for a meal I didn't even order. Said it was for the vibe. We all laughed. For the first time, I saw it clearly. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't alone. They had been playing this game for a while. I was just the first one to flip the board. I went home that night feeling lighter than I had in months, and I slept soundly, not as someone who had been excluded, but as someone who had finally walked away. I played my part to perfection. All week I sent excited texts to the group chat. Can't wait for Saturday. And got some great deals on the drinks. You'll love the variety. I even asked if anyone had preferences for wine or soda. Sarah responded with a champagne emoji. I replied with a thumbs up and a smiley face. Let them think I was back in their web. Saturday arrived, and I packed my car with everything I'd bought. Off-brand sodas, discount wine, bulk beer, and 5-gallon jugs of water. It looked generous, but it cost less than a single bottle of the wine they used to order at Olive and Anchor. The irony was delicious. Their barbecue was everything I expected. Matching platters, Instagram-worthy charcuterie, background jazz, even monogrammed napkins. Sarah greeted me in a summer dress that could have paid my rent for 2 weeks. Rachel, wow, you really brought a lot. Of course, I said, smiling sweetly. Wouldn't miss it. Lena and Bianca helped unload the drinks, nodding approvingly. Very organised, Bianca said. Looks like you've done this before. I grinned. Just trying to be helpful. People mingled. Laughter echoed. The grill smoked like a magazine ad for a perfect summer afternoon. But I kept my eyes open. I wasn't just here to serve drinks. I was here to listen. At around 4 p.m, I went to grab my phone from the car and took the side entrance back through the kitchen. That's when I heard it. Sarah's voice, muffled through the laundry room door. She actually showed up, she was saying, with the cheapest drink she could find. Can you believe it? Lena snickered. It's her way of trying to be part of the group, budget style. She thinks effort makes up for taste, Bianca chimed in. I bet she spent maybe $50 total. My chest tightened, but I didn't move. Sarah's cousin hesitated. But didn't you say she didn't have a lot of money? Maybe that's what she could manage. Oh, please, Sarah scoffed. If she wants to hang with us, she needs to play at our level. I slipped out before they saw me and returned to the yard with a frozen smile. They toasted my drinks. They took selfies holding cups I'd paid for. They asked me to adjust the cooler placement for the aesthetic. I did it all, pretending not to know that behind the veneer of friendship, I was still the joke. But now I knew something they didn't. They weren't in control anymore. And this party? It wasn't my comeback. It was just my setup. The cake was cut, candles blown, and the chorus of Happy Birthday still echoed in the air when the check arrived. $1,500, neatly placed in a leather folder like a final twist of the knife. Sarah, still glowing in her couture dress, picked it up with a graceful smile that quickly faltered. Oh, she murmured, brows lifting. Bianca leaned over. How much? 1,500? Sarah replied, trying to mask the tremble in her voice. So, about $125 each? That's when I stood. The chair made a soft scraping sound, but in my head it might as well have been a thunderclap. I need to head out, I said, slipping my purse over my shoulder. Early morning tomorrow. Sarah blinked. Wait, what? I only had a Caesar salad and water, I said, placing a crisp $20 bill on the table. More than enough to cover my part, with tip. Bianca froze. Lena's mouth opened slightly, but no words came. I looked directly at Sarah. And since I already paid for all the decor and the cake myself, I think I've contributed plenty tonight. The silence was thick. Not awkward, exposing. You organised everything, Lena said, half laughing. You can't just leave. I organised. I paid. I stayed through cake and photos. That's more than fair. But we're splitting the meal, Sarah said tightly, like always. No, I said softly, not like always, not anymore. I smiled, then walked out of that marble and gold restaurant without another word, my heels clicking like punctuation marks. When the door closed behind me, I exhaled, not relief, but triumph. For the first time, they were the ones scrambling. In the car, my phone lit up with calls and messages. Bianca, come back. You can't leave like this. Lena, we're sitting here with the check. What are we supposed to do? Sarah, after everything we did for you? I let the messages pile up. Then I replied with a single group text. Me. I paid $240 for the cake and decorations and $20 for my food. That's my share. Enjoy the rest of your night. The typing bubbles came and went, accusations, deflections, thinly veiled insults, but it didn't matter anymore, because they had tried to trap me, again. Only this time I saw the trap coming and left them holding the check. By Friday, the whispers were louder than ever. They were no longer just distorting the truth, they were rewriting it completely. According to Sarah's version, I'd orchestrated the party just to humiliate her, stormed out in a scene and stuck everyone else with the bill. She even claimed I refused to pay anything, not even for my own food. That's when I knew it was time. I walked into the break room carrying a slim folder, deliberately waiting until I heard Sarah's voice through the thin walls. She set up everything so she could act like a victim again. Honestly, she just wants attention. I stepped inside, calm, composed. Sarah talking about the birthday party? Her voice caught. Just explaining to Carla what happened. Perfect, I said, laying the folder on the table and opening it with a soft snap. I brought receipts, literally. Rental invoice for the decorations, $85. Bakery receipt for the custom cake, $120. Bulk flowers and candles, $35. Total, $240. I laid them out like a lawyer presenting evidence in court. Carla's eyebrows rose. You spent all that? For Sarah's birthday, I wanted to make it special. Sarah opened her mouth, but no sound came. Her eyes darted to the printed totals like they were betrayal itself. And I paid my own bill at the restaurant, I added, placing my receipt for the $20 salad and sparkling water beside the others. So your total contribution was $260? Carla asked. Yes, I said, which is why I didn't feel comfortable being asked to pay an extra $125 for other people's dinners. The room was still. Bianca, who'd just walked in with her coffee, froze mid-step. Marina from payroll stood near the microwave, clearly listening. The silence hung for a beat too long before Carla broke it. Well, she said slowly, that sounds incredibly reasonable. Sarah looked like she might implode. I didn't need to say anything else. I simply packed up the folder, smiled, and walked out. That moment changed everything. The story spread fast, not from my mouth, but from the people who witnessed it. By the afternoon, even the senior exec assistant was murmuring $240, and they still wanted her to pay more. The tide had turned. By Monday, the office knew the truth. My reputation, once under siege, was now defended by the power of documented facts. And for the first time, they were the ones being side-eyed in the break room. The following Monday, something was different. The chill that used to greet me each morning, sideways glances, the fake smiles, had thawed. People nodded genuinely. Some stopped to say hello. Marina even asked if I could help her niece plan a graduation party. Word had spread. The truth had reached the light. But more importantly, I had changed. I no longer walked into work with a quiet prayer that no one would embarrass me. Now I walked with purpose, with pride. And that energy, people noticed. I was on my way back from the copy machine when I ran into Carla from HR. Emma, she said, a little out of breath. Quick question. How would you feel about organising the company's year-end celebration? I blinked. Like, the whole thing? She nodded. We've been talking, and honestly, everyone's still raving about how you organised Sarah's birthday. Management was impressed. We'd pay you, of course, as a freelancer. I almost dropped the papers in my hands. I'd be honoured, I said, trying to keep my voice even. Great, Carla beamed. Let's meet this afternoon. It's a big one. 200 people. I floated back to my desk, adrenaline buzzing. 200 people. A real budget, a real opportunity, the kind of gig that could launch something bigger, something permanent. That afternoon I sat in the conference room going over ideas, timelines and potential vendors. Carla took notes while the finance director nodded along. You've got a great head for this, he said. Ever thought of making this a full-time thing? I smiled. Actually, I have. I left the meeting with a signed contract and a 4-figure deposit in my bank account, and when I passed Sarah's desk on the way back to mine, she looked up. No glare, no smirk, just a single nod of acknowledgement, respect. Later that evening, I sat in my tiny apartment, sketching mood boards and browsing rental catalogues. I opened a fresh notebook and wrote across the top, Lunar Events, named after the cafe where I'd first met Marcus, Brenda, Anna, and John, my real friends, the ones who never asked me to split bills I couldn't afford, the ones who saw me, respected me, and, when needed, stood up for me. This wasn't just revenge, it was rebirth, and I was only getting started. The year-end party was a triumph. Everything from the string lights to the personalised gift bags screamed elegance on a budget. People whispered compliments all night. Did you see the dessert table? Emma really outdid herself. Even the CEO stopped me mid-bite of bruschetta to say, We've never had a party like this. You have a gift. And just like that, my reputation soared, not as the girl who refused to split a bill, but as the woman who built something from scratch, with dignity and grit. Ironically, Sarah, Bianca and Lena were also at the party. They moved through the room like ghosts, present but fading. Occasionally they tried to play it cool, waving when we made eye contact, tossing fake smiles my way. I returned them, but only out of courtesy. I didn't need their validation anymore. Near the end of the night, Amanda approached me by the dessert bar, holding a glass of Prosecco. Emma, she began, cautious, this party is incredible, really. Thank you, I said. I'm glad you're enjoying it. She hesitated, biting her lip. We've been talking, the girls and I. We wondered if maybe we could clear the air sometime, just the 4 of us. I tilted my head. Clear the air. Go back to how things were. I looked at her, really looked. And for the first time, I didn't feel small in their shadow. I felt grounded, unmoved. Do you really think, I asked, that after I spent $240 on Sarah's birthday, paid my own tab, and still got villainized, that I overreacted? Amanda fidgeted. I mean, maybe it was a little unfair. I raised an eyebrow. A little? She sighed. Okay, it was unfair. But maybe you also kind of overreacted? I almost laughed. Even now, with the truth laid bare, they couldn't take full responsibility. Even now, they clung to the idea that I had somehow ruined their perfect world by refusing to be exploited. Let me ask you this, I said calmly. Would you have stayed silent while paying for 3 people's filet mignon on a secretary's salary? Amanda looked away. You're being difficult. No, I said. I'm being clear. Her eyes flared with frustration. We're trying to make peace. No, you're trying to restore control, I replied, but I've already made peace with myself. I left her standing there, her Prosecco untouched, her mouth still slightly open, and I knew, without question, I was never going back. 6 months later, I unlocked the door to my first office space. The sign outside read Lunar Events, a modest suite above a florist bathed in afternoon light and possibility. My first wedding project had gone viral on Instagram, followed by a sweet 16 and 2 corporate gigs. Every week brought new inquiries. I'd even hired an assistant, Jasmine, a college student with a sharp eye for colour palettes and an even sharper sense of humour. Life had changed, radically. But the biggest shift wasn't the money or the business cards or the requests from executives who once barely acknowledged me in the elevator. The biggest shift was internal. I no longer sought approval from people who measured worth in menu prices. I no longer feared being left out of fake friendships built on imbalance and quiet resentment. I had real people now, real friends, people like Brenda and Anna who still met me every Friday night at Rusty Anchor, where we laughed over tacos, where the check came, and nobody blinked at paying their own. And sometimes when we were deep into a third round of beers, Marcus would toast to Emma for turning their snobbery into her empire. I'd laugh, but deep down I knew he was right. One Tuesday afternoon, as I was reviewing a contract, I received a LinkedIn message. Amanda S. Hey Emma, I saw your company is doing really well. I always knew you had talent for events. Wishing you all the best. I stared at the message for a full minute before replying. Emma B. Thanks, Amanda. I hope you're doing well too. And that was it. No bitterness, no sarcasm, just a clean, polite closure. Some bridges don't need rebuilding. Some lessons are better left intact. A few weeks later, I was presenting a proposal to a client when she paused and said, "You seem so grounded, like someone who's been through the fire and came out golden." I smiled. Something like that. What made you start your business? I glanced at the vision board behind her. Sparkling lights, hand-painted signs, long tables filled with laughter. A dinner bill, I said simply. She blinked, confused. Sorry? I once refused to pay $54 for a glass of water. That moment, when I stopped apologising for not being rich enough to belong, it changed everything. She laughed, thinking I was joking. But I wasn't, because sometimes all it takes to find your worth is to stop letting others define it.